What do you know about Nwobhm?
Absolutely fuck all.
What's Nwobhm? You gonna tell us?
Nwobhm, new wave of British heavy metal.
New wave of British heavy metal.
It was iconic, it stood out. Out from the 70s, it was no longer hippie and flower power. We're brutal, we're wearing chains, we're wearing spikes, we're wearing leather. We've got big hair, we've got big shoes, we've got big guitars, we've got chunky, meaty riffs with beautiful vocals, big choruses, everything was big, in your face.
Growing up in Middlesbrough was rough in many ways, but I loved it. The best days of my life. You know, schoolmates, music, football. That's pretty much what growing up in Middlesbrough was like. But yeah, so it was good, but it was obviously an impoverished area and a lot of unemployment.
Growing up in Middlesbrough was always tough, but the one thing that Middlesbrough had that brought everyone together was music.
But yeah, it's that's what it was like in a lot of northern towns and cities back in the 70s.
Now, I can recall being at school, in infant school. I remember making a balsa wood guitar, and it had elastic bands as strings. I remember playing along, making out I was playing guitar. That was my very first dallier into music.
Me and my friend sort of used to pretend to be the bands. I remember once we set up in his front room and we put like Deep Purple, Made in Japan, I think it was, the live album they did. And he had like a load of plastic tins, things that he sort of made a little drum kit out of. And I had like a wooden guitar. And we had his front room window open, people walking past and this music, and we were in the front room going like this. And it was like absolutely crazy.
Well, the music influences for me in the very early days were really Slade,
Status Quo.
Motorhead.
For me, it's Queen.
The Sweet,
Def Leppard.
T-Rex.
So AC/DC on Top of the Pops in 1978, doing Rock and Roll Damnation. That, like, from that moment on, I was addicted to AC/DC, and that's when I became into sort of the harder rock. And then within a few years of that, I decided I wanted to try and have a go at playing it.
The very first Black Rose, if you like, but it wasn't called Black Rose then, we were called Ice. And we actually saw Ken, who sadly isn't here tonight, and he was chucking his guitar around and stuff like that. And I sort of watched him and I thought, that guy, we've got to get that guy in our band. And he did. And that was when I would say, not long after that, we changed our name to Black Rose and we became the first sort of version of the band.
Well, Black Rose, in fairness, they were one of the inspirations for me. They blew me away. They were like amazing. A brilliantly professional band playing rock music, but to a different sort of style, of more energy really than we'd seen maybe in some of the bands we'd been listening to in the earlier part of the 70s. So that had an effect, hearing a band like that. And then Ken left and wanted to start another band, and you know, I'd already started playing a bit by then and had got my own band, Lazy Dog, together. So me and Ken went off and formed Holland, changed our name, partly because our record company thought we could come up with a more heavier metal sounding name than Holland. And that's when we became Hammer.
It was needed at the time, the same as punk rock was needed at the time with the Sex Pistols, okay? Music had become very, very stagnant.
It was like a cross, wasn't it, between the classic rock of what had gone before and punk. It was like this mix of like faster rock. Bands like Iron Maiden, Saxon, other bands like that, Praying Mantis, I remember at the time, Raven, they were all playing this faster brand of sort of rock music, almost punky, but a bit more refined than punk, if you like. It still had that sort of classic rock feel to it. And obviously, what every heavy rock song has to have, they had guitar solos in them.
The new wave of British heavy metal, I think, personally, brought the kids together. They heard this, they heard these fast riffs, they heard these twin guitar solos, and all of a sudden they thought, wow, I like that.
It was good. It was, we got coverage. I think once you've got a label, all of a sudden you become more easily talked about and marketed, and that happened for the new wave of rock bands that came through in the late 70s and early 80s. And we just happened to be in that time box, so happy days.
We did the demo that we did up at Newcastle, started to appear in certain little charts around the country, Kerrang magazine, Sounds magazine. I've still got the clippings at home now where we were number 7, and there's like bands like Black Sabbath and Deep Purple and Queen and Iron Maiden and all these other bands, Ozzy Osbourne and us.
And I don't regret a single time of it. I do think now, when you look back at that era, probably from 1979 to probably 84, probably, in my personal opinion, the best era for music.
First of all, there was no such thing as Nwobhm when we were growing up, because it was invented kind of after it had happened,
I don't think you set out to become a new wave of British heavy metal band. You played a British kind of rock. You just got together with your mates and made a noise. So where the label came from, I think it probably came much later through the press.
Music publications like Sounds, which tended to be a bit more oriented towards rock music, they fully embraced it. Obviously, Jeff Barton.
Jeff Barton, wasn't it?
Jeff Barton, yeah.
Created the identity, and it's the name in itself.
It was the music, it was the image, it was the attitude. Just opened a whole new world for people who were very average musicians, like I was.
I think it's youthful, naive optimism from kids learning to play the guitar, wanting to write songs. They didn't really have any preconditions or barriers in their mind. They just wanted to do it. And some of them did it averagely, some of them did it brilliantly, but they just did it. So I think that's freshness and that it's just spirit of opportunity. That, we weren't conditioned to any rules. We could just do what the hell we wanted. So for us, the uniform that we wore to go to gigs, it was denim and leather, basically.
I had a studded leather jacket and everything like that.
So I had a Wrangler jacket full of patches and embroidery. I didn't even know I was going to become an embroidery expert, but at 17-year-old, I was embroidering the back of my denim jacket. Who'd have thought it, eh?
I had Dr. Martens on.
And if you had a spare few quid, you'd probably afford a biker jacket.
My mother used to make me go around the back entrance.
And you'd have your jeans on, and they'd be covered in patches and tassels and badges. That was the uniform.
And I had to go in the back way, so none of the neighbours or none of her friends would see me.
Yeah, so that was what we wore. But obviously then that's what the fans wore, and that's what I was a fan to start with.
The new wave of British heavy metal at that time was very, very unique, because everybody tended to know everybody. So in the northeast, there were certain venues. There were only a limited number of venues where all the bands would play. So on any given day, all the fans of new wave of British heavy metal or heavy metal, they would all congregate there, and everybody tended to know everybody as well.
Yes, they might have had favourites, but they'd still go and support the other bands as well. So it was just a local sort of community enjoying what was going on around them at the time.
They're into the geekism of the music, whether it's the guitar playing techniques or the drumming, or they're really into their music if you're into rock music.
You put a big band on like Girls' School or someone like that, that place will be rocking. It'll be absolutely heaving.
A few beers, have a bit of a dance in front of the band. It was a good community wherever you went. You would be sort of welcomed into the crowd.
Some things about rock fans is they always go the extra mile. I mean, I know from myself, when I was into a band, if I wanted to see them, I'd go anywhere to see them. That's rock music fans, that's Nwobhm fans. They will, they're obsessive about it, they love it. Absolutely happy to be part of Nwobhm. It's a much broader church musically than a lot of people will allow.
You're going to get influences of, even today, of classic rock. You've got influences of the punk rock. You've got the influences of the new wave of British heavy metal. There's a lot of... There was a band not so long ago I saw on YouTube. They're a young band, but they're dressing like they've come from the 1980s, you know, and they're playing that style of music, the twin leads and things like that. So, you know, it's never gone away. And you're always going to get, I think, kids of all decades always look back and so, I mean, you know, you even get people now still digging the 60s and the 50s, you know, so it's always going to happen, and that is always going to have a knock-on effect, which is great, because it means it never dies, you know.
It makes you realise there's a lot of breadth and variety there. It's not all the same thing. But yeah, it was great to be within that. You know, I feel quite chuffed that we're recognised as part of it, and of course it's helped a lot of us little bands that had a modicum of success to still be talked about today and relevant today, and still people like listening to our music 40 odd years later, even though we wrapped it in 1986. It's amazing that you know, that has carried on, and we still get a lot of good feedback about some of the songs we've written, and you know, we're very proud of that. And although, you know, we didn't make a penny out of it, but we've enjoyed doing it, and we're very, very chuffed with it.
We don't make a living out of it at all. We've all got jobs. Yeah, I mean, basically we do this for the fun. Okay, we don't make any money out of this whatsoever. It is basically all for fun.
Basically, we're still got the enthusiasm. We've still got the drive, and the ambition to still want to record good music, you know, and that's what we're trying to do, even though we're getting on a bit now, and we're not going to be running around trying to conquer the world like we were when we were in our 20s. But we still want to, like, you know, we still do it, we still enjoy it. And I suppose until we are physically incapable of doing that, we'll always will, you know.
About 3 months, I give it.
Yeah, I know.
Charlie Harper out of the UK subs is 80 years of age. I've got another 18 years to go. And then you look at Keith Richards, Mick Jagger. Who knows? Who knows?
It comes back down to the people. The community was brought together by this sound. That's why it's lasted so long and why it will continue to last. The people make this music. It was made for the people, by the people.
You are fucking crazy. Rock EP. Right, well, it's not a rock me hard.